Hi Sam, how are you doing?
Hi, Anna. I'm great, thank you. It's Thursday. I have an exciting weekend ahead of me. I'm going to Anglesey in Wales, in North Wales, where I've never been before, to celebrate one of my friend's 30th birthday. So it's a bank holiday weekend in the UK here. That basically means that we have a holiday on Monday, and we call them bank holidays because the banks used to be closed on these days. And for some reason, we've kept the name bank holiday. I think we're the only place in the world that calls them bank holidays. I don't know. Maybe like Australia or Canada do as well. Who knows? But yeah, so we have a 3-day weekend, which is great. And we're going to Anglesey on Saturday, come back on Monday, and a huge group of us are going. So it should be really fun. So I'm pretty excited about that. How are you doing? I think you've had a bit of a celebration recently.
Yeah, I just turned 38 on
Okay.
Monday, and I know that some cultures don't do this to celebrate before your birthday, but I actually did because there was weekend just before, so and everyone that I wanted to meet from my family like they were free during that weekend. So we just decided to meet up and we had a barbecue with my family and we had a little meeting with my parents-in-law. And yeah, on the actual birthday, I was just after the celebration. So I just had a relaxed day. I didn't work that day. And my husband, he is taking a whole week off during this week. So we just spent the day, in a very relaxed way. We didn't have to cook because we had some leftovers from the weekend. So yeah, just a nice time. And the weekend ahead is actually also a longer weekend for Poland in Poland. And tomorrow is Friday. It's free from work for everyone. We are also meeting some friends tomorrow and some other friends on Saturday.
Why is it a holiday tomorrow? What's the reason?
So this is the long weekend, like the long May weekend in Poland, and there is like the 1st and 3rd of May is always free. There is the work. Um, how I
Like
can't
Workers' Day, May Day.
Workers' Day. Yeah,
Yeah,
Workers' Day.
that's the same in the UK actually, but we don't have a holiday. Hmm. Ours is just called the early May bank holiday, and then we have a late May bank holiday as well. But I think maybe originally it was made for the Workers' Day, but our holidays are always on a Monday. We never have a day off on a Friday. Actually, apart from Easter, we have Good Friday. But all of our bank holidays are on Monday. So maybe this was just kind of like moved to a Monday, but it's not technically on May the 1st. So it's not Workers' Day. But yeah, maybe that's why. Okay.
Could be. And
Hmm.
yeah, we call it just the long May weekend.
Okay. Yeah. Tomorrow is technically May Day in the UK, I think, which is like the Workers' Day.
May Day.
May Day. Like there's an emergency. May Day.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
hmm.
I was just about to say that it rings a bell.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what that actually means, May Day. I think it means like emergency. I have no idea. That's just one of those like phrases that you hear in like a film that you never actually say in real life.
May Day.
Mayday. What does that mean? Who knows? I'll look it up after. Okay,
This is so weird.
nice. So we both have long weekends.
Coming.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. So what are you doing this weekend? Meeting friends tomorrow?
Yeah, meeting friends tomorrow, meeting friends on Saturday. And I'm not sure about Sunday yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we'll just see what pops up.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I think you're okay celebrating your birthday early. I think in the UK, what normally happens is if your birthday is not on a weekend there and you want a celebration of some description, you just choose the weekend before or after. So it doesn't need to technically be on your birthday, but even if it's before, if it's a better weekend, especially if it's like a long weekend, which yours wasn't, but yeah, but it's on a Monday, so it makes sense to celebrate it the weekend before.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, I prefer to do it this weekend, like the previous weekend, because on the long weekend, many people are somewhere else because they use
Mm,
the extra time, the extra day. So, for example, my brother is in Croatia now, and
okay.
like he wouldn't be able to, just teleport
Yeah.
for my
Hmm.
celebration. But I heard that in some cultures, now I'm not sure. I think that I've heard from some person from Ukraine that they would never celebrate before
Mm,
because it brings like they believe that it brings bad luck. So
yeah.
it would be rather a month later than a day earlier.
I think you can have a party in the UK. I think it would be. I don't think most people open their like cards or presents early.
Okay.
Did you open your cards and presents early?
Yes, I did, of course.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I guess if everyone's there and they bought you a present or a card, then you kind of want to open it in front of them, don't you? Rather than saving
Yes,
it for the date.
yes.
So kind of makes sense. Interesting. Yeah, I kind of get it about celebrating early and bringing bad luck or something, but I get it. You have to save it. You have
I
to
didn't
wait.
die or anything, so hopefully
Yeah.
I didn't attract any bad luck
We'll see.
by celebrating earlier.
Mm,
We'll see. Yes.
we'll see. But today in this episode, we're going to talk about this podcast and how podcast listening to podcasts can be useful for people learning English or learning any language. So, Anna, you have learnt English. I haven't learnt English. Well, I technically have, but in a different way than you have. Have you had any experience of listening to podcasts? And if so, do you think it improved your English?
I think that listening to podcasts is like the main technique that I used to learn English, really. So I used to listen to podcasts before in Polish, and I really appreciated like how much it helps me to overcome some stressful, boring, like unpleasant situations in daily life. So, for example, like driving somewhere, especially in rush hours, um, it used to be pretty stressful for me because it's just a huge waste of time. Even if you don't have to go somewhere like every day, every time I had to go to the city center and, I had to wait and wait and in the traffic, I hated it. I was always, annoyed because of all the time wasted. And once I discovered that I can listen to books or to podcasts, and it just makes the time so much more enjoyable. Like you don't really pay that much attention because you are not really losing this time like 100% if you are using it in, even to listen to something that is at least enjoyable. It could be, include some knowledge, so it would be really beneficial. But yeah, it really changes the experience. And once I started learning English, I really started from listening to YouTube videos. Yeah, I don't really watch YouTube videos, I only listen to them. And yeah, I started just from listening. I used to slow down these videos, even like English with Lucy, who, Lucy speaks very clearly, like her pronunciation is super clear, but it was too fast for me at that time. So I would like slow it down
So
to
you'd go
like
into the settings and go
the
on
settings.
0.75 or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I would slow it down. I would listen twice or three times to like particular episodes that I found more useful. Then I started doing something like shadowing. I before I heard about shadowing, I just started to repeat like repeat what they say in my own pace, or like trying to follow the video with my own speaking.
And podcasts are great because, like you said, you can listen to them while doing other things. And most activities in English, if you're reading, if you're writing, if you're speaking, maybe speaking you can do while doing other things. You can drive and speak at the same time. But if you really want to, focus, then it might be difficult if you're, on a motorway and then also thinking about expressing yourself well in English. That might not be the best place or environment or situation to try and do that. But with listening and listening to a podcast, then you can do that anywhere. So maybe we can play a quick game where we take it in turns to say places or situations where you can still listen to a podcast at the same time.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Cooking, I think, is a good one.
Ironing.
I don't iron.
What?
I feel like, yeah, my mum irons everything. She irons boxers, socks, bed sheets, pajamas, everything. I don't iron whatsoever. I have a steamer. I do have an iron as well, but one of my friends is actually borrowing it. That's how I'm on like the edge of Gen Z and millennial because I'm 30 now. But I think I associate with both sides. But I feel like it's a very end millennial Gen Z thing of not ironing. I just wait until if I go out, if I'm going to a restaurant and I'm like, oh, I want to wear this shirt and it's creased, I will iron it. But all my clothes, no. I'm not that organized.
Barely anything, but
okay.
Yeah, sometimes I do.
Okay. But yeah, podcast while ironing makes sense. Walking places, like walking your dog, walking somewhere.
Absolutely. Maybe doing groceries, buying groceries.
Ooh, yeah, groceries. Commuting, going to work. Like this is the most annoying time because you are spending time getting to and from work and you're not even getting paid for this. So you may as well upgrade your English skills at the same time.
Absolutely. What about cooking? Did you say cooking?
I did. That was my first one.
You did? Okay. Yep. Then weeding your garden.
Weeding your garden. Wow. Okay. I guess you could say gardening in general.
Gardening, yes.
Yeah.
Could be.
Weeding. Nice. Cleaning your house.
Oh, yes. Hanging laundry.
Yeah. Hanging laundry, yeah.
Sorry.
We could be here all day. Cleaning the table. Cleaning the chair. Hoovering. Yeah. Anywhere else? Should you be listening to podcasts at work? I'm not sure. When I used to do nights in the supermarket because there was no customers to interact with, and it was basically just stocking shelves, we were allowed to listen to music or podcasts, and it was great. So if you've got a job like that, then go for it.
I think that it depends on the job, how focused you really have to be.
Any other situations? Basically, any situation where you're not having to use your brain too much. You might have to use your body. So like ironing, cooking, cleaning, walking, driving. You are using your body, but your mind can kind of be like allowing
somewhere else
information in. Yeah. So that's the beauty of it.
When you don't interact with other people. Sorry.
Yeah. When you're not interacting with other people as well. Like you don't want to be listening to a podcast and be working
with someone.
Yeah, exactly. With your friend, exactly. You've gone for coffee and you've got this podcast in your ears. Don't do that. Unless you're both listening to it. But okay. But yeah, that's the great thing about it is because lots of people say that they can't improve their English because they don't have enough time. And I completely get it because people have jobs, they have hobbies, they have friends, they have family, they have relationships, they have children, they have dogs, they have things to do at home. Like it's a lot. And English for most people, if it's not like a huge priority in their life, usually gets pushed down to the bottom of the list of priorities and they won't do enough to really improve. And they might do enough where they're like a little bit engaged over years of periods where they're kind of like, okay, 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there. And they're doing it's like a thing in their head. It's like an open loop in their head of I need to get
Mm.
to a B2 level in English. I want to become fluent in English, or it's like a goal of theirs for years. But they don't spend enough time that like engaging with English to actually make significant improvements. If they just had 6 months to do nothing and just study English, then they would get there most likely. But most people can't do that, understandably. So people need to find a way to fit English into their busy lives. And I think podcasts is an excellent way to do that because I can guarantee everyone listening to this does drive to work or get a train or get a bus to work or something, or even walk to work, unless you live remotely. But I'm sure you do some shopping, unless you get your shopping delivered. Walk your dog, maybe unless you have a dog walker. Clean your house. I could keep going on here, but I'm sure there are some situations where they are doing kind of these passive activities while they could listen to something at the same time. It's not as good and as effective as doing like active learning sessions, but still increasing your input through listening to podcasts is still a great way to engage with English more often.
Yeah, and you can also make it more active through some other activities that you just come up with, like whatever feels right, like stopping the video and answering some questions or elaborating on something that you heard, or even like this is a great thing that I learned. I heard it some time ago, and I think that I did it intuitively before. That you kind of summarized. If you really want to remember what you heard, if you think that it will be profitable in the future or beneficial for you to remember some piece of knowledge that you just heard, it's great to stop the video or after the video, just take your time to summarize what you heard and put it into your own words. So it's like speaking practice. It reinforces like your memory to remember the new words. A thing that I used to do quite a lot was just stop the video whenever I heard a word that I really liked, or whenever I came across a word that I thought that I should remember it, or some phrase. Sometimes you can just guess the meaning from the context, or sometimes it's even like very similar to some expression in Polish, so you can really tell what it means, but it's something that you didn't expect in English.
Mm,
If it makes sense. Um, there is. It's quite surprising how many idioms are like both in Polish and in English,
mm,
and sometimes they are not very obvious and they are still there. So sometimes I just stop a podcast to like repeat a couple of times this new phrase that I heard, or this new idiom, or to even like put it into some phrases that are relevant for me. And sometimes I also save like to watch later these videos if I think that there are like more useful phrases, more useful vocabulary in a particular podcast. Sometimes someone is like really well spoken, and I think that I would like to absorb this vocabulary myself. So then I just save this particular podcast and come back to it after a while, just to remember these words better and make sure that I just don't forget them.
yeah, that's a really good idea because you can't really do that while driving, can you? You don't want to stop the podcast and then get out a pen and paper or your phone and
You
then start
don't.
writing them down. So yeah, remember to watch it back later and find those useful vocabularies. Um, yeah, and save them somewhere. Write them down in a little diary or a journal or your notes page or however you store your new vocabulary, and you can practice with them. That's a really good. That's the best way to learn new vocabulary, in my opinion, is organically find them just through engaging with English. So it could be when you're speaking to someone, or you're reading a book or listening to a podcast, and you hear a word and you think, okay, I don't know what that word is. Maybe you look it up and then you think, oh, that's a really useful word, or I liked how they used that word to describe this situation. And if you feel like that is a word that you would like to use, then definitely do what Anna does and save it. If it's really specific, and you're talking about how to grow tomatoes and they're talking about some really specific term, then you don't need to learn everything, but just choose the words that kind of like are useful for you. But yeah, that's a good practice. And also the summarizing. So you could summarize the podcast in general, like wait until it finishes. Some podcasts are really long, so that might be difficult. If you're listening to a 3-hour podcast, it would be quite difficult to summarize that podcast. However, it could be still a useful exercise, but pausing it after someone has made a point, especially if someone is explaining something. For example, imagine you're listening to a history podcast and they're like, why did Nazi Germany invade Poland? And they're talking about this. You could, and like a historian answers that question, you could listen to that and then try to summarize their point afterwards and put the information into your own words. And then if you wanted to, you could go back, listen to it again, and then try again to do it better. But yeah, those are 2 useful exercises you can do. So, Anna, how do you think listening to podcasts actually helped? What skills did it develop in your English language? Did it just make you a better listener? So when you were listening to other people talk English, did it just make you a better listener? Or do you think it made you an all-round better English user, especially your speaking skills? What do you think?
I think that it helped me improve like both speaking and listening. It took me quite a lot of time, I think, and a lot of hours of listening just to be able to understand spoken English, especially like if someone speaks fast, and native speakers often speak very fast. So I think that it's a very good thing to do, just to listen to different accents, and just like look for patterns. There is the thing called connected speech that makes words sound very different from how they are like presented in dictionary.
So how did it really improve your speaking skills, though?
So I think that it helps a lot with rhythm. Like the English has a very specific rhythm of like just the spoken English. I think that it's like for many languages, it's like each word is pronounced separately. Like they go one after another, like like soldiers. I saw this comparison, to people. So in Polish, for example, usually you pronounce each word separately. They just follow one after another. And in English, there are these like main words that get all the pressure, all the accent, and they are like very pronounced very clearly. The main words that carry all the meaning, and there are all these like functional words. I can't remember the proper name, like the
Articles?
and out. Sorry.
Okay.
Articles, yes.
Some articles, yeah, prepositions and things like this.
Yeah, exactly. So all of them, they get kind of like smaller in speech. They don't get the how do you call it? This part of the word that you put the pressure in, like is.
You put like stress on it?
Yes, stress. I think that's stress. It's stress. So so then all these small words, they are just like dropped every here and there, but they are like kind of small compared to these main words that carry all the meaning. So and this comparison and this like picture, like visualization of the like how the language is pronounced or like spoken, it was compared to like if you see people walking and they are not soldiers, they are like groups. There is a person with a dog, there is a little gap, there is a family like two older two adults and two children like running around, and some words are big, some words are small, and they just flow together.
That's a fantastic visual. That's a really good example. I can really see that. That makes a lot of sense. That's really good. I haven't heard that before. Yeah, in English, there are two things I can think of. Two phrases. One is "you're right, mate,"
Mm-hmm.
which I said, "Are you all right, mate?" But it comes out, "You're right, you all
Yeah.
right," and then "mate." And another one is "see you in a bit."
Mm.
See you in a bit. In a bit. People just say "in a bit." In a bit.
And then try to say it like separately.
Yeah.
See you
See you
in
in a bit.
a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. How
See
does
you
it
in a bit.
sound?
Yeah, I would literally say to my friends, "See you in a bit," and I can imagine how that would confuse someone. So listening to a podcast can expose you to people speaking English in like a natural rhythm, maybe.
Suppose and also teach. Like it makes you notice these like patterns and the structure, how it's structured in a natural way. So I think that it's something that you really have to like expose yourself to a lot of listening to really absorb it. I think that there is no other way, because like from, for example, reading, uh, it's not something that you could like create yourself if you don't hear enough of it.
Yeah. So like if you're just reading loads of books in English, you might know all the words and the sentence structure and the grammar and stuff, but you don't know about the sounds that it is a
Yeah,
the
and the
sound is
rhythm.
important, how it's pronounced and how it sounds and the rhythm and the tone and the stress. So reading alone won't prepare you for that, especially if you get dropped in a pub in Manchester or something, and you're like,
Good luck then.
yeah, and you've just read loads of books. You'll probably be able to keep up a little bit, but it would be difficult, certainly.
Yeah, and then like sometimes words sound completely differently from what you would expect from like just the spelling.
Yep, true. Yeah. Okay. So, and do you think this process of you becoming a better speaker from listening to podcasts is something that requires active practice, like we talked about before, with you maybe like shadowing or like practicing some of the phrases or answering some of the questions? Or do you think it happens subconsciously? So let's say someone does a little bit of speaking in English, but they listen to loads of podcasts, maybe like 2 hours a day or something. Do you think that will subconsciously and automatically make them a better speaker? Or do you think it does require those little, like active practice sessions like you were doing? What do you think? Any ideas on this?
I think that listening definitely helps a lot. And if you only listen, I think that it will also help a little. Uh, I mean, with speaking, because obviously it helps with listening. But with speaking, I think that it still helps a little, because you just like remember this flow better. But then I think that I have this thing that sometimes I read some word, a word, I see a word, and I know in my mind how to pronounce it, but my mouth doesn't want to cooperate. And, my tongue gets tangled, and I have to try a couple of times just to pronounce it, just to pronounce the word. Even if I feel that I know like how it should sound, I can't produce it myself. So I think that it's very important to practice speaking, even if it's just shadowing, even if it's like just repeating some like basic even words or basic phrases. I think that's very important to activate your mouth and your tongue to this process, and really pay attention to learn the English sounds that maybe are not in your native language, and try to produce them as accurately as it's possible for you, and actually really practice.
Yeah.
I think that would be about it.
Yeah, totally. And that's why for all of these episodes, we're putting together like a transcript for these podcasts so that when you are listening, you can read along at the same time. I know there are subtitles on YouTube which you can use, but if you see the whole text, then I think it's a little bit easier and you can follow it and read it a bit easier. And I think this is also a nice way to shadow because you can literally mimic, or you listen to how I say a sentence and you're like, okay, that's the stress or the rhythm in which he used when he said that. And you can go back and then try and read it yourself at the same, using the same stress and pitch and stuff like that. So yeah, I think the transcript is a really useful tool for these podcasts, and most podcasts don't provide a transcript. So I think that's what kind of makes this, even though we'll be talking about lots of different topics, not just language learning, we'll be talking about loads of different things, but you can kind of like read along at the same time, which I think is valuable. Listening is great, like all the things that we've just been talking about, but then reading is also really important as well. So now you get to do both at the same time. Obviously, if you're driving a car, again, don't read the transcript. But yeah, if you're at home in the safety of your own home, that's fine. But yeah, don't drive and read. That's not a good idea. But okay, nice. And last question maybe I have for you is, the podcasts can be hard because there's lots of people in them. So did you go through a process where listening to just one person was easier? And then maybe sometimes you would develop into a podcast with like two people, and then maybe there's like a bit of a back and forth. I know most podcasts with two people, they're not constantly interrupting with people that, one person will speak for a minute or two, and then the next person, then the next person. With like a group of people, that's different, isn't it? Sometimes I listen to like a comedy podcast and there's like 4 or 5 people, all have microphones, and I can imagine that's a lot more difficult for someone learning a language to follow, because people are jumping in, little comments, jokes, different accents, people speak in different ways. So do you ever listen to podcasts with like a big number of people there?
Not with a big number of people. I can't really think of any. I can't remember any podcast that I would listen to and that would include more than 2 people, like converse. They usually one person speaking when I listen to podcasts. Like most of them, 90% probably or 80% of the podcasts that I have listened so far had only one person in them, and some of them were like. Conversations between 2 people. There's usually this host and someone that they invited for a conversation. And I don't know, it's more dynamic when you think about like how it flows. I think that it's more dynamic when 2 people speak to each other. It adds to it just changes the vibe, I would say. It's not like monologue and the person just presenting their ideas. It's more like people talking. Yeah, it's more random, less like more difficult to predict where sometimes the conversations go in very unexpected directions, and I think that they are sometimes more funny to listen more fun to listen when there are like 2 people talking. It's just more dynamic, I think.
Yeah, totally. But lots of real life situations aren't just 2 people, though, are they? Like, usually when you're in real life or at work or out socializing, it's more than just 2 people. So maybe there does need to be a bit of a gradual exposure to listening to groups communicate and talk.
That would be great. That would be great. Yes, I just think that it's a little bit more difficult to follow if there is a lot of people. And when you said about like this podcast, comedy podcast with like a lot of people in there, I can like my expectation would be that it would be quite challenging for me to follow so many people. Maybe also because I'm so used to just listening and not watching. So maybe if there was a video and you could see these people talking, maybe it would be easier to follow if you can see the faces. But I can imagine that probably it would be more difficult with more people. But also, you know, you have to challenge yourself to improve, basically. So this is required to do the difficult thing.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe like group conversations would be better, as a better like way to ease yourself into group conversations or discussions, especially with other English learners. So it's not just a group of native speakers. Maybe that
Hmm.
would be the ideal situation to ease yourself in. I know that can be quite scary for some people, but that might be easier than listening to a podcast of four native speakers talk in group settings. So, because that could be pretty hard to follow. But can you think of anything else that we've missed, Anna?
You know, there is so many aspects you could add and so
Mm.
many tips you could add. I think that this is just almost endless, uh, you know, bag or of things that you could add and techniques. I can think of quite a few now, but um, I think that we can just wrap it up. You know, I think that we made quite a few points so far, and
Yeah,
I'm
I
afraid
think
it would be
people
just maybe too much if we go further now.
I think people have got the understanding that listening to podcasts in English is quite good for their English. So I think we hit the point. So yeah. So thank you for listening to the episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it and found it useful, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.